You're listening to Safety Cafe, Conversations on the Frontline, the podcast with real conversations with industry experts who live and breathe safety on the job. Whether you're on a construction site, in a warehouse, or out in the oil and gas field, this one's for you. So grab your hard hat and coffee. It's time for Safety Cafe. Previously on Safety Cafe.
In your opinion, what makes a great safety professional? What's the combination?
Oh, wow. One word. Relationships. To be a good safety professional, a rock star person, you have to be a people person. And I coined a phrase that says safety, it's about family. It was one of those deals where I'm like, yeah, safety is about family, and the reason workers need to work safe is, what's going to happen when you can't work.
Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with our guest, John Cannon. So go ahead, grab your coffee. It's about to get good.
Great segue, John Cannon. Thank you. We look at the what's called the energy wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is way cool. Okay. Some of the big clients that we have are, they're utilizing that. I worked with Quanta Services, Mears Broadband, and that's when I was introduced to that energy wheel. It is the simple way of doing safety. KISS principle. It's okay. Here's my energy wheel: motion, electrical, biological. Geez, I just went brain dead. Anyway, when we look at that energy wheel, it's what helps us keep people safe. It's not always the safety guy's job. Mm-hmm. It can be, your job, and, the guys looking at the camera's job, and, everybody's responsible for safety. It's not just one person, but like, for example, let's take motion. Mm-hmm. Let's take that thing called motion, or that thing called mechanical, or that thing called electrical. When I look at it, and this is something that I learned a couple of years ago, and I look at, okay, here's the energy wheel. Here's my task that I'm performing. Let's say I'm working, for all simplicity purposes, I'm working on the side of a road. Mm-hmm. Motion is what can get me, right? Because of the cars. Right. How do I protect my workers? What's my first step of protecting the workers? Well, I have signs. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is going to warn the driver. Okay, what happens when those fail? The signs have failed, and we have a driver. What's going to protect the workers now? Well, you put in your secondary. Right, so you have your primary protection, you have your secondary protection. Your secondary is when energy is released, what's going to absorb that energy? Could it be a Stinger truck? Could it be a shadow vehicle? Could it be something big enough so that when this vehicle comes off the roadway, how are we going to protect the workers, right? So that's that. Go to electrical or mechanical, lockout, tagout. If the lockout tagout fails, what's going to absorb the energy, and what steps did I take before I ever started working on it, right? Because there's a standard operating procedure in the ebb and flows, and oh my gosh, what's the number one human principle? People make mistakes.
That's right.
That's number one.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody made a mistake and they didn't do something right, but as we go down and we look at, okay, what's my primary and what's my secondary, and we sit down and we think about it, KISS principle. Okay, I'm going to put my lock on, I'm going to put my tag on, I'm going to de-energize. Well, do I need to release that stored energy now? What do I need to do when it comes to, 1910.147, control of hazardous energy, right? Mm-hmm. How do we do that? So the energy wheel is amazing. So for you guys that are out there, look it up. The energy wheel, you can type in the energy wheel. I'm sure it'll come up. University of Colorado, that's a shout out to those guys. and things. And Monique, Northwest Safety, I'm sure they've got a copy of the Energy Well.
We sure do, because of you, John. We started implementing it, whenever we started partnering up, and you told us about it, and I don't know where I was with all of that stuff, but for some reason it was new to me, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this is great to pass on to our team members, right? And sharing knowledge, whatever can make them better at what they do on the field, mm-hmm. because as you know, there's one thing to know the academic side of safety and to know the regs, but there's another thing when you're out on the field and you need the tools and you need things to just reference as you connect with people and, mm-hmm. and how you're analyzing a situation in real time. Mm-hmm. Because as we know, in the real world, nothing goes exactly as planned.
Oh, tell me about it. We look at things all the time, whether you're doing a shutdown or whether you're doing, no matter what you're doing in life, right? Our CEO said this in a podcast, and I'm going to steal Greg's words here. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes as people, we go, oh, I'm going to do this, and this, and this. And then at the end of the week, say you go on vacation. Let's take vacation, for example. Like next week, I'm going on vacation. Uh-huh. It's pretend time off, okay? PTO, pretend time off. Now, I'm going to be spending time with the grandkids. And, I sat down last night when I got home from Houston, and I was writing some stuff down. This is what I want to do with the grandboys. I want to do all these things. Mm-hmm. And then I looked at it and I go, yeah, none of that's going to happen.
Maybe you need to do one of those things, especially with children. Children is like they actually just run the schedule.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and my grandsons are amazing. Jackson is 5, 6, yeah, and I'm like, hey, let's just have fun,
right,
and be together.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to be together and probably eat lots of popsicles and ice cream and
go to the playground.
Yeah, we could go to the playground and play lava. Remember playing lava as a kid?
My kids love playing lava, and I do remember playing as a kid too. And so what's interesting is how these games pass on in generation. But I don't ever remember teaching my kids how to play the floor is lava, but they somehow know, and they jump between all the furniture and yeah.
So, young boys.
Yes.
They find a stick. What does that stick become? A gun.
Yes.
No matter what it is how did they learn that? Where does that come from?
Right. Nobody shows them that. It just comes out.
What's really funny is we talk about our family, we talk about our kids, we talk about, trying to make plans and things, but it all, we can evolve that and equate that to, okay, safety people out there, we can make all these plans and all these changes and do all of these things, but yet, what is the end result?
Right.
What is that end result? Did we get home safely? I had an old superintendent one time tell me, and the guy was as country could be. I mean, it's like, you drug him out of the woods somewhere, I like safety, and I'm like, he talked, I can't mimic his voice, but he was gung ho because he told me why one night. I was in Florence, South Carolina, and working on a project there, and we got to talking. We're sitting at the hotel, and he's looking at me, and he goes, "You know why I'm so hung on safety and a partner of yours?" And I was like, "John, tell me why." He goes, "I've buried 4 people."
Wow.
4 workers that worked under my command.
Right.
And I'm like, it was one of those, it takes you and it sets you back in your seat, mm-hmm. and you just kind of go, wow. That's when we become that listening person.
Absolutely.
And he just poured his heart out.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't ever want, and they all 4 died at the same time. Uh-huh. Goes, I don't ever want that to happen. And golly, that was back in 2006 when I met him. Uh-huh. Right. he's a super good guy. Guy's good as gold. And I got to go home every 30 days on that project for a long weekend. And whenever I would leave to go home, he would always come into my office and he said, I'm taking you to the airport. Before I ever got out of the car, John, you deserve it. Go home. I got this. I got your back. And there's old school superintendents out there that I got to get the job done and got to make the bottom line. Those folks haven't experienced what John experienced.
Right. Well, when you see a human life there and suddenly it's gone in an instant, because that's how quickly things happen in an accident, which most of the time they're preventable, that will change your life. It changes your perspective.
Yeah. I was in Houston, and I was part of the daily, they have a daily meeting with all of the trades, the client, everybody, and they're talking about things. And, our superintendent, Micah, he goes, John, you got anything you want to add? I said, absolutely. Statistics tell us that at the end of a project, towards the end of a project is when something is going to happen. Something's going to happen. When you property damage, somebody could get hurt because they see the finish line and they're just wanting to rush and get there. And I told everybody in that meeting, think by the nanosecond. Don't think by the minute. Don't think by the second. Think by the nanosecond, because it only takes a nanosecond for something to go wrong.
Absolutely.
And as we look at that and we're talking to the team there, you could see everybody going, oh, I've never heard that before. I need to think by the nanosecond here, because when you see something, you say something. If you see something, you don't say something, and something bad happens, can you live with it?
Right.
A lot of people are going, they'll walk by an unsafe act and safety guy, get that. It's everybody's responsibility.
Right.
And that's where we need to carry the message on whether it's a construction project, whether it's a remodel, whatever it is, at home, at play, at work, all of these things, we have to work together.
Right.
It's a community.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, because I feel like if you can raise the consciousness of the people on the field, right, and instill that their life matters, right, and just, it goes back to like that humility and that servant leadership. And when you focus on them, and then that starts to be contagious, right? Somebody cares about me, so now I can care about somebody else, right? So it's like pass it on. And so if you can create that culture on a project, that's where we win, because yes, it's so important to have training and to do all the things and have the site-specific plan and do all the things, right? Risk mitigation, you do all those, check all the boxes, but where it really matters is changing the site culture, right? And as the GC, you guys play such an important role in that.
Yes, absolutely.
How a life matters, and that you guys care about your trade partners. And before we came on and we were talking about Pam Donaldson, because she's a rock star.
I love Pam to pieces.
Yeah.
That's that lady there. She is a praying mama, and Pam she's gold. Pam, a lot of organizations don't have this, and I think this is where one of the things that sets us apart. Her entire job is to build relationships with our trade partners. You notice I didn't say subcontractors.
Absolutely.
They are partners. They're trade partners. They have a trade. They have a niche in the system so that they can be the expert at whatever they're doing. And when we look at the whole dynamics of a project, we have to have those partners come alongside us.
Right.
And serve with us.
And so what I thought about something, because I got to meet her, just before we went on, and then we were talking about her, and there's something that was interesting, because I thought she actually plays a critical role in safety.
Oh, yeah.
Because she focuses so much on your trade partners and their importance and their role, they feel that energy, right? And so I feel like that impacts the safety culture on a project because they know that they matter, right? There's so many, and this is, I'm talking about, Gordon Highlander being an outlier. You guys are different because you guys take pride in your trade partners, and so many companies do not, right? So I think that is feeding into the safety culture on your projects, and the reduction of accidents and incidents and near misses and things like that. It's just that focus that you guys do right there, and lifting people up, and so that's what she does every day, right? Just lifting up the trade partners. So as I was thinking there, I was like, wow, that's such an amazing strategy. I don't know if it was intentional, but if it was, amazing, because she's changing safety culture. There's so many things that are happening there, but it is impacting safety on your projects.
We, any trade partner that comes to work with us, depending on who the client may be, but we, keeping safety simple. We have a QR code. They scan a QR code. They watch a 15-minute video, which is really a slide deck with a voiceover, and then they go through that process, and then they answer some questions at the end, and then they get the Gordon Highlander certificate, and then they come and they show it to the safety professional or the site superintendent and say, okay, and they get a hard hat sticker. It's mostly awareness that we have to be around. Now, training people to do their job, we're not here to do that because they should already knowing how to do their job. But there are those times when trade partner we have to go to a client, and that client has another set of expectations, so we will exceed those expectations. And in building that relationship with our client, with our trade partners, with our superintendents, with the guys that come on to a site, we have that relationship, and we have to foster those relationships, and we have to continue to build on those relationships, because you never know. I found myself the other day. I know a lot of people, right? And I find myself, I'm like, man, I really need this, and I can't remember how I get it done or how I have to go about it, but I know somebody. And, I'll call them up and I'll say, hey man, I'm not calling because just to say hi, but we'll talk for a little bit, right? And then I'll ask them, hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me out? Absolutely, John. Because they know that they could call me and ask me anything, and I would help them out in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever I need to do. And it's about the relationship. We go back to that relationship word.
It's at the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
Like relationship.
Yeah.
So as far as tech and safety,
okay,
where do we think we are going with tech?
There's a lot of cool stuff out there right now from the AI perspective. A year ago, before I left my executive job, I set in on this deal where he brings in this camera, and you put it on your hard hat, and you can walk around and you can look at stuff, and then you bring it back and you download it, and it not only helps with like the constructability and the technical aspect of building the project, but you could also do it automatically knew when something was unsafe because the screen would turn red. I was like, wow, this is cool.
Right,
So I think us old timers, some of us are still stuck in our old ways. We need to embrace it, because artificial intelligence is here.
It is here.
It is here.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether we like it or not, it is definitely here. And I think the tools, I think it's going to make our jobs easier in the long run.
Right.
Because I really would like one day, in the grand scheme of things, is to be able to go, okay, I'm in, wherever United States, and I want to look and see how a project's doing. Instead of FaceTiming somebody,
the robot can send it back to you.
The robot can send it back to me and go, hey, this is the status, or this is the state of the project right now. Because we use a system called Procore, right? And this where all the documents are loaded up. We have the safety checklist in there, and we have permits in there, and we have forms and all of this goodness. And I get a report on a weekly basis that says, hey, this is the projects that are happening here, and I get another report that says these are all of the safety inspections that were done. And I look at all of these reports, and I look at them, and I go, okay, cool. And then I can go in, I can dive into the pictures if there are any. But it's getting the people. The tool is only as good as what we put in it, and the AI is only as good as how we've trained it, right?
Correct.
So I think all the people that are a lot smarter than I am will get that figured out in life. I'm a great champion at, if you want me to try something, I'll try it. Yeah. And what's the end product? Is it going to save us time and money? And not necessarily. I don't want to take the people out of the mix, because we need the people out there. We need good, solid people out there to continue to drive the message, to continue to be those positive coachers, to continue to help, maybe implement some of the AI and those type of things. I think it's neat.
I think we're going into a time, so this is my thought on AI. We always talk about reactive and proactive safety. I think we're moving into an era of predictive safety. And I mean, maybe you could argue that's being proactive, but when you have machine learning happening, right, and it becomes a predictive, hey, this person, this place, there's a high likelihood of XYZ happening, right? And I think that's where we will get with AI. And I agree with you that I don't see people getting out of the equations, because it goes back to relationships, as we've been talking about all this time, right? And it's how do you connect? You can't just have robots going around a job site. It's just not going to be effective, because a lot of it is coaching and getting people through to the end result, unless we have robots building. But I don't think we're there yet. So it's still very much a human industry, a human-run industry. So I don't see people being taken out of the equation. I think it's just about giving people superpowers, essentially, making you being able to do so much more, and then creating, from a risk management perspective, right? It will put out so much data, and it will help pinpoint things a lot faster than we could humanly possibly do. So.
Yeah, it's like our safety inspection that we do in Procore, right? We can pull the KPI data off of that and go, okay, when we pull all of the parts that need improvement, right? And we can go, okay, for example, personal protective equipment. Well, we've got a high number that is negative. Okay, we need to concentrate on that, because eventually that's where the next injury could come from, is maybe not wearing gloves or not wearing my glasses or whatever it is, right? Yeah. So when we look at that and we look at the data that we have, I think the next incident could be predictable and hopefully preventable.
Right.
Through education, through relationships, through positive coaching, through these things that, when we look at all of the KPI data, not only from AI, but the data going in now, when you look at it, how good is the data that we're looking at? Because remember, people put this data in, and it's only as good as you're only as good as what you put into it.
Right.
It's just like being an athlete. It's just like being someone, a business owner, or the people you surround yourself with. Is we're only as good as those people, and I'm only as good as those people will let me be. Right. I surround myself with professionals, with people, family members, work family, the whole nine yards. I surround myself with those people for a reason, because there's a choice, right?
Absolutely.
We all have a choice to be where and what and how we're doing it. But if I put in bad data, even as a director, I'm going to get bad data out. So we have to be diligent in, the input of the data.
Right. And I think that's where the combination of, perhaps having AI robots and people, it'll be a collaboration, because that is where it may improve our data inputs, where the people are still necessary for coaching, right? And their own inputs in there, because sometimes, right, a robot may analyze things and be like, oh, this is all, compliance issues, right? However, if you're looking at it in real time, you'd say, well, that's not really, an issue in this particular situation, right? Of course, this goes on to the question of liability, right? So,
Yes.
Because if you've ever been involved in an expert witness case or a deposition, I mean, how much do we want to have recorded, right? So, so I think it's the two sides of things. That's the darker side. Do we want everything to be recorded?
Yeah, I've been doing this for a minute. My very first deposition was nuts. My very first expert case was nuts. But as over time, when we look at things, I look, sometimes I revert back to the old me and going, man, I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. And I go to some of the younger safety professionals and go, man, you don't know this yet? Why not? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Well, why do you not? It's experience, right?
Yeah.
It's up to us, men and women, to bring them along and to coach them up and to help them gain that knowledge and that experience. I had a guy that, a safety professional, you're going to know the person.
Gotcha.
He didn't do so hot his first round out. Okay. But before he left the job site, the day he left the first time, I told him, I said, man, when you get your act together and you've got it together, call me, because you've got a lot to offer. You got a lot to offer. The guy's got a heart of gold, do everything in the world. He's now back in the mix and doing a bang-up job, because it's about that second chance in life.
And you're the one that actually gave him that second chance via us, but you're the one that called me. So
I did. I did call you, and you were probably floored.
I was like, I am not. This is not happening, John Cannon.
But again, it's about, okay, I'm gonna get spiritual here for a second.
Sure.
It's about those second chances that the Lord's given me in life.
Yeah.
And it's about those second chances where I go, okay, he forgave me, I need to forgive as well. And sometimes as business owners, you're like, oh, can I afford to do that with this guy or girl, whatever?
Yeah.
And I think this individual we're talking about, I'm not going to mention any names.
No, stays off the record.
But this individual we're talking about really did a 180.
Yeah.
He really did. And I'm like, that is what I'm talking about. And I saw that individual the other night before I left. And, I could just tell he's all in, right?
He's eager to show.
Yes.
Yes. And, well, I said to you when I said, okay, fine, but I leave him in your hands, John.
You did say that.
I was like, if something goes wrong, my hands are clean. So.
But we got to remember.
Yeah.
Me, you, him, the other team members we have, we're not in the fight alone.
Yes. Yeah.
We are not in the fight alone. And I do not, when somebody, maybe they don't meet the bar, or they're not quite there yet, I still have a lot to learn.
Right.
Not only in life, but in my profession, in what I'm doing, in the different systems and the different programs. I still have a lot to learn. And, I want to be coachable. Hey, don't do that anymore. Okay, I won't do it anymore. How do I do it now? If I can't do something this way, what is the best way for me to navigate? And that's where we depend on our brothers and sisters in crime, is we say, hey, help me figure this part of life. Because I don't know. And sometimes we truly don't know.
Yeah.
But we have to reach that point of time in humility and go, I need help. I need to ask for help. And knowing, for any man or any woman to truly ask for help, it's pretty hard.
It takes humility.
It does.
Yeah. Deep humility. Yeah.
It does.
Well, yeah, it's, I commend you for referring that person back, because he is doing well. And so, yeah, you proved me wrong. So
no, didn't prove you wrong.
Because I was like, nope, not happening. So, but we've created a great working relationship, and
yes, we have,
and developing people. And on our team, we're really big on developing leaders. And we take sometimes people that perhaps most people wouldn't see it yet, but we look for that glimmer. And I know you do the same thing. And I will call you and I'm like, I have this person, and I'll go over the situation, because I look at so many other things beyond, XYZ, right? I'm like looking at those people skills, and I'll say, John, I think there's something here. And you'll tell me, well, let's give it a shot, And I mean, it's not everybody on the team, but there's, there will be like one or two people I'm like, I think they could be good for this. And because you're also all about developing people and developing leaders and looking for that diamond in the rough, right? And growing people. And that is something that I love. Our collaboration on that is we're developing people as professionals, as leaders, and we're so big on integrity and being great on the field and off the field. Excellence, like we preach excellence all day long. Having unwavering excellence and doing the right thing all the time. And I think that's where we tag team on that with our team members. So it's been a great thing to see people develop as individuals and then develop as safety professionals.
Yes, and the Lord blessed me with the knowledge that I have, and there are times when you want to put somebody in a chokehold and just squeeze, but then there are those times where you have to go back and you have to go, okay, what's the best way to approach this situation or this individual? And because there's those times when you have to have the tough conversations in life, and how people perceive that. It's like, for example, you go and you do a safety audit and there's something wrong, and you have to approach them and you have to say, hey, how do we do this better? What's the better way of doing this? And I love coaching people. I love helping them be the best. I want to bring God's given potential out of them, just like our mission statement here at Gordon Highlander.
Right.
We're a legacy of doing that, bringing God's given potential not only out of each other, but out of our clients, out of whatever our trade partners. We want to help develop people. Some of the best people out there have had that second chance. Everyone has a story. I have a long history and some of my story. I used to not be a very nice guy, right? But it's only by God's grace of who I am today. And part of that is helping mentor, and I use mentor, I don't use that word lightly, because, well, so-and-so did it like this. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I did it like this because I know the law, I know the rules, I know these things. That's why I did it like that. You may not be able to get away with it because you're missing part of the puzzle. Right. And I think as long as you and I continue to collaborate on those things, and we continue to help bring those younger, like somebody that maybe they're in the oil field right now, maybe they're doing something that they don't want to do anymore. Give safety profession a shot. It takes a special person to do it. It's a difficult, and you're tired. You're mentally tired at the end of the day, because you're pouring your life into other people all day, every day. And that's what our profession should. It's what all professions should be about. Honestly and truly. Yeah. As long as we're continuing to raise them up. It's like kids. You know, you've got small children, I got grandkids, and, you know, it takes a village to raise those kids up to be who, you know, to show their God-given potential.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as we close, do you have any final thoughts or recommendations for people out there that are in the field?
Oh, wow. You know, I look at what I've done over the past 30-something years as being a safety professional, education, credentials, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I can have all of the education in the world. I can have all of the support in the world. But it's what I do with that support, with that education, with those credentials that matters. You can be the smartest, book smartest person in the world. Mm-hmm. I butchered that, but the experience and listening mm-hmm. is what matters, and being coachable. Okay. You know, I think as we evolve in this thing called safety, and the ebb and flows, and where we were in 1970, you know, to where we are currently now, and, you know, looking at all the blood that was shed to write the OSHA books, and the 1910s and the 1926 and the 1904s, and all of these rules and regulations that we have. I think it's important that as us old codgers, as old folks, it's up to us to be able to pour that out into other individuals and hopefully listen. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a boss tell me one time, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You need to listen twice as much as you talk.
There you go. I like that. Yeah.
So that's my final, my parting words there is truly, if you want to be a safety professional, number 1, you have to be a people person. Mm-hmm. Number 2, you have to be coachable. And number 3, listen twice as much as you talk. Mm-hmm. And I need to practice number 3.
Well, thank you, John, for being on, and thank you for leaving us with that wisdom, and look forward to all our coming collaborations. Absolutely. And, you know, if we want to do a part 2, we could make it happen. We could probably make part 2 with this one. Yeah, probably.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Safety Cafe Conversations on the Frontline. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next time.